webinar, everyone. Each month we do a brief webinar on a specific topic relating to some aspect of using MasterMine and Goldmine. We try to cover a range of topics that we think will be helpful, will help you succeed more with MasterMine and with Goldmine. We'd love to hear from you about how well we're doing, what topics you'd like us to cover, and what would be most useful to you. So please make it a point of answering the survey questions when you close out of this meeting. Now, today's topic is sharing MasterMine reports, and your host, as always, is Rob Makalak, the developer of MasterMine. So take it away, Rob.
Thank you very much, Carnegie. And happy April to everyone. Our topic, as Carnegie said today, is sharing, and I know that you are all looking for good ways to make better use of your MasterMine and to, at the same time, please your mother. So we've set you up to do that this month. So here's a quick look at the agenda for today. I think that we'll be able to do this one certainly within the hour that we've set aside for this, and hopefully shorter even than that. So we're going to talk a little bit here about report distribution methods, and specifically what I want to do is contrast this, contrast using MasterMine with the sort of typical scenario of creating reports with a report writer and kind of having all that stuck with a single person who generates, essentially all the reporting for the company, and with all of what's good and what's bad about that being the case. And I want to talk a little bit about options for sharing MasterMine reports, which is a little bit different, and particularly about the mechanics of setting up reports so that the create user of MasterMine can share them with other users, and what that means actually to share them. And really to talk about the value of interactive versus flat reports set up for different users in different scenarios, and we'll come back to that. And then finally, if there are any licensing issues associated with MasterMine that get impacted by the decisions about who you give a create license to and who has share licenses. At the end, we'll have our usual free half-hour session giveaway, which is an opportunity for you to earn 2 MasterMine support credits to get things done on your side, or get things done really through GoToMeeting working with you on your side. So Carnegie will be doing a drawing for that at the end, and let's dive right into our topic here. So report distribution methods. Now, most of them are probably already the fairly familiar ones that you've got. How do you distribute a report? Of course, you send it to a printer, and you print 10 copies of it, and somebody walks around and hands them to the 10 people who get the report, or they bring them to the meeting. Another very common way, of course, is attaching to an email or cutting and pasting into the body of an email. Again, all of these scenarios here, all these sort of traditional scenarios, are cover the situation where what you're really expecting is one person is your report person. They generate all your reports. They're the go-to person for things. I think that I have to say well over 90% of the companies that as we approach them with MasterMine initially, are probably set up to distribute reports in the way that one of these ways that I just described. I'm going to add in that sort of one-off or schedule option, because of course there are situations where you set up reports to print, or where they're set up to print kind of on a schedule. Every Friday morning the call reports are just automatically generated out into the printer by a process that's been scheduled, and then everybody just gets the report off the printer, or the administrator goes by and picks them up and hands them around, drops them on everybody's desk. What I want to suggest is that's the old way of doing it. It's not bad just because it's the old way, but it doesn't take advantage of a lot of the benefits of simply having self-launching interactive MasterMine reports on your Goldmine menu. And so I'll talk a little bit about, well, actually I'm going to say what the advantages are here, and then we can just come back and really dig into how do you actually implement this self-launching option. But I will say MasterMine does support the printing and handing out, the cutting and pasting into emails. It does support those options, so we will talk a little bit briefly about, for example, taking a snapshot of a MasterMine report and what you can do with the snapshot. But just briefly here about self-launching interactive reports. Many times on these webinars, I'm sure you've all seen, and I'm just going to switch over quickly to Goldmine here. You've all seen where I'm in my Goldmine, and when I go up to the top here, I have a whole set of pre-created MasterMine reports that are examples of ones that I would use if I were, for example, if I were the sales manager. I might have 6 or 7 different reports that I just launch from one button on the taskbar in Goldmine. So now, how did those get there? If you are on this webinar, I'm assuming that you are the MasterMine Create user, or at least you are somebody who's had MasterMine reports created for you and shared to your Goldmine taskbar. You may not know how they actually got there or how you can cause these to show up on other people's taskbars so that they also would be able to open them up again with a single click. And when you open a MasterMine report, this is kind of new language here, because what does it mean to open a report? Because obviously if somebody hands you a report on a piece of paper, having a report there's no opening involved. It's just there in front of you and you read it and you're done. A MasterMine report is something that's interactive, meaning you can make minor tweaks to it. You can also do very major tweaks to it if you wanted to, but the point is with MasterMine not to give one person the ability to create a whole bunch of 100% finished reports, but rather to give a few people the ability to create a number of, let's say, 80% finished reports. When I say 80%, it's mostly finished reports, which once the actual end user of the report opens them, they can actually tweak them to do exactly what they need to do, even though that might be something different every single day of the week. Different questions. A report that's of some use typically answers different questions each time it's opened if the user has if the user is sort of inquiring, if the user wants to actually make better use of the information that's available. Let's try and get into some examples here. But the key points that I want to make here about these self-launching reports is that they are always current in the moment they are opened up. You open it, it refreshes against the data. It's current in that moment. There's no lag. There's no question of am I looking at what's really still true while I'm looking at it. They're always available. No, if the report writing secretary person or the IT person or whoever it is that you've been relying on is not available, that doesn't mean your reports aren't available. They're just simply right there on your taskbar. Because only you are involved in making it happen. Nobody else has to once this has been deployed to your taskbar, only you need to be there to open it. These all sound like fairly obvious things, I'm sure, but if you think about it for a minute, there are huge inefficiencies that I encounter in every company that we work with, even sometimes years after they have MasterMine, because they've really stuck things down with just one single person, and so they always have to go to that person to get reports. And if that person's on vacation, well, too bad. We got to wait a week to get the information we need for the the sales meeting that's going to happen tomorrow. These are all really important reasons to have some interactivity with your reports. Okay. So now that said, let's go into the actual creation of reports and sending them out here. I actually have an existing report here, and I wanted to kind of run through a little scenario. I had created this report before we got started, of course. This is a simple one that any one of you could generate out of MasterMine in about probably 3 minutes. What it shows me is a source report. In other words, how many leads did we get into our database in 2015 from each of these different sources, and this is just broken out by the source field that's at the contact level in Goldmine. And we're also using, in our case, we're using our score field. Now think of this as a scenario where we've got a marketing manager whose job is to generate leads for a sales department. And so the marketing manager focuses, of course, on the marketing aspect of it. In other words, how many high quality leads can I generate and pass off to the sales department? And if that were all their job involved, okay, that'd be great. They'd be done. They just come back and continuously work on ways of getting higher and higher numbers of leads in. But of course, a marketing manager has to think in terms of, well, I can make, as a marketing manager, I can make some estimate of the value of the leads that I'm generating. But if I don't get feedback from the sales department, if I don't get feedback from maybe specifically from the salespeople, and whether I get that directly from those individuals or I get it from the data, if I don't get that information back, I can't do my job better from month to month and year to year. And of course, everybody in the company wants me to succeed more, but very few people in the company can really give me information that helps me to actually do the job better. That's where potentially something like MasterMine comes in. If I'm if I'm the marketing manager, then can I look into the Goldmine database and figure out where of the leads that we got in here, where did they come from, but then how do I relate that to what happened with them subsequently? Can I show, for example, that while I may have gotten a lot of leads from I don't know, from the New York Times, this is a bad example because the numbers don't back it up, but let's say I got a lot of leads from the New York Times and I got fewer leads from the Chicago Tribune, but doing a little analysis on this, I find out that I actually wound up, we as a company sold a lot more from the leads that we got from the Chicago Tribune. Well, where do we want to go and get leads from? The one where we generate the most leads, or the one that actually winds up generating the most sales? Obviously, it's the second one, but if I'm the marketing manager and I don't have sufficient feedback that tells me this kind of thing, I'm not going to improve my work on this. Now, bear in mind, I'm just talking about the marketing manager at the moment, but this, this sort of reasoning could apply to just about any task within the organization, and you really want to be able to do this stuff well. Okay, so here's kind of where the rubber is going to meet the road here a little bit. Is if I'm a marketing manager and I've been given static reports, when I need reports, the company's been very generous to me. They said, feel free, use our sales writing, our report writing person to create any 3 reports you need that will tell you exactly what you need to know about how you're doing. Well, this might be one of them, and another one might be some final sales report, and whatever it is. But the company, not knowing that we have MasterMine available, has only given me these 3 static reports, and they know that if it turns out that I need more information on some of this stuff, I'm going to have to go back to that sales manager. Just to sort of complete the kind of static reporting scenario here, let me just illustrate technically. Well, how would the report person generate this report for the marketing person on the assumption that the marketing manager doesn't use Goldmine or doesn't have a MasterMine license? Well, of course, what they would do is they could either print this out, just literally file, print, send it to the printer, or they could use the MasterMine Snapshot function right here to take this sheet, which is inside MasterMine and therefore kind of behind a MasterMine wall, but just take this sheet and generate, let's say, a copy of this current sheet in a new, what we call archive workbook. This would be an Excel workbook, and they'll hit the OK button, and what's being created here is a static version in Excel still of the same MasterMine sheet that we're on. And we'll talk here in a moment about what it is, but let's suppose then, having generated that, they go to the marketing manager's subfolder, and it could be out, I'm assuming it's going to be out on the network someplace, that the marketing manager has their own folder that they pull their weekly reports from, and this is the new leads report from the lead assignment tab of that new leads report. It gets time-stamped automatically with today's time. Hit save, and and it's asking me, do I want to go ahead and look at that? Go to that one, so I will. Okay, so here I am now. I'm the report. Let's say I'm the report writer, and I've just generated this snapshot of my report, and I put it into a folder that the marketing manager looks to every day or every week or so to see their reports, and maybe I will have generated 3 different reports like this. So this is the static snapshot version of this report. And that snapshot function that I just showed you up there in MasterMine has, it can be used for various different scenarios. I'm just taking this one as an example. Creating this report, putting it in a certain location. Now, if the marketing manager is not in the building with me or not on the network with us and needs to have this sent to them, of course, it's certainly possible then to email, say, okay, I don't know, this is my marketing manager here, email and attach that file that I just created, which is out there in the location where it was. I won't navigate to it right now. And attach the email, send it. That would be me, the report writer person, sending it out to them. But what was the work that just got loaded onto me in order to send that to them? I had to open the report, refresh it, do the snapshot, go over it to my email client, whether it's Outlook or Goldmine, set up an email to that person, attach the file, send it to them. Now, all of that may sound like a fairly brief list of steps that I had to do to send it out to them, but multiply that by 10 different people in the company that I'm preparing reports to and sending them out, and making me do a schedule of how I'm going to send it out to them, and so on. And that's going to wind up pretty soon occupying a person, full time, or a large part of their time. And really large organizations can afford to have a full-time report writer person probably, but most organizations, most of the smaller organizations, certainly the ones that use Goldmine, don't have that kind of luxury. So you have to kind of figure out, well, what are the real trade-offs between having only one person know how to generate reports versus giving everybody a little bit of knowledge and giving them reports that are mostly what they need most of the time, that they can tweak, and I'll give some examples of that here in a moment, tweak to actually give them the information they need in the moment based on their own knowledge of their own job, as opposed to the report writer person trying to guess how the sales manager does their job, what's the most important information for a sales manager to see. If a report writer person knew that, they'd probably be a sales manager instead of being a report writer person. So let's go back to that. So I just wanted to give you visually, this is what a flat report looks like. I'm sorry, this isn't the flat one. This is the flat one, no buttons, no drilling down, no other information. It's just a flat sheet. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this one. And we are back now in the live MasterMine report, which could be, instead of every week or every day, one person doing that work to ship a report over to somebody, this could be just simply a report shared to the taskbar of the marketing manager. How do you do that in MasterMine? Well, I'll do that, and then I'll show you some examples of how the marketing manager might use it from there. That would be, instead of going to the snapshot button, that would be, I would have created this report, and on the MasterMine toolbar, I hit share, and I say, okay, my marketing manager is Lori. I'm going to put this on her MasterMine taskbar. Could be her, whatever. If she's only got a few MasterMine reports, she's probably got a MasterMine taskbar that I send these to. This is our new leads report. It's the same name, and I could hit resave. In this case, I would do that so that I could save it to a network location that Lori can get to. I hope everybody understands me when I'm talking about that. In a client server arrangement of Goldmine, which is the most common one, you have a server box, and then everybody has their individual workstations. All of those workstations have access to a central server where Goldmine is, but that server can also have locations where reports are shared. For example, MasterMine reports that are related to more than one person. So each person at their workstation has to have access to the location at the server level that you're saving this report to. So in this case, I'd say yes, sure, I'm going to save it in this location, no, I don't want to deploy it to another user, so I'll say no, and that's just simply done. So basically, as a report writing person, I could have created this report, hit the share button, saved it to Lori's taskbar, just as in the process that I just did, and that's essentially all that it takes, so that the next time Lori logs into Goldmine, she will be able to, if she didn't already have her toolbar turned on up here, her taskbar rather, she would have to right-click up here and turn on the taskbar. Some people don't know this taskbar does not show up by default in Goldmine. A user has to go in and actually turn it on. But once they've got it, it's there. And then launching that report, now I'm logged in as Rob, not as Lori here, so I don't see the one that I just deployed there. But that basically would be all it would take for them to have a report. Now, why is it good for the marketing manager to have a flexible report as opposed to a static one? For some of you, I'm sure that that's completely obvious, but for others, I want to do a couple of examples here. First off, this report does give me some useful information, right? I can tell from each of my sources what are my A, B, and C type leads that I have generated. Now I happen to have a score field in my Goldmine. If you don't have a score field, you've probably got something else that you use to rate the quality of the leads, either according to objective criteria, like demographics, or according to, could be just simply when the sales rep called them up, they said, yeah, that person's a B lead and this other person's a C lead, and so on. Hopefully you've got some sort of rating system that provides some kind of feedback back to the marketing department or the marketing person that says, okay, here's, at least in our estimation, some of the value of what you're doing so that you can do more of the high value stuff and less of the lower value stuff. Okay, so that's a simple report, but it, as a sales manager, or sorry, as a marketing manager, it's good for me to know this, but how do I ask the next question? Well, okay, so the next question might be, who are those leads we got from customer referrals? Now, MasterMine, as you know, offers a drill down, so I could look at either all 15 leads that we have from customer referrals in 2015 by just double-clicking on the 15. That, of course, gives me the detail that's behind that number 15 in the report. It even gives me access back to Goldmine, of course. I can double-click on any one of these and actually go to, this was Adamson Associates, email up here, let me close that. Adamson Associates is the one that I double-clicked on in Excel, and that took me right to the record in Goldmine. And if I'm the marketing person, then I can take my next steps or figure out more from that if I want to, one by one. So this level of information, of course, is available to me if I've got some flexibility. I can also, of course, drill down in any one of the sub numbers within there, so I can only look at the C leads or only the A leads. Or I might add a dimension of additional information here. Maybe all I really wanted to know is what are the company names of the customer referrals. Now, if I want to add, and again, this is just a simple tweak that you can teach your regular users to do. It's not as complicated as people often make it out to be if you just give people a limited set of skills that help them to work with a report. So really, I just want to roll down the company names of the 15 records that are customer referrals. How do I do that? Well, rather than double-clicking on the individual numbers and getting a whole new sheet, I can double-click on customer referral, and I'll get a dialog that asks me, what additional kind of information do I want to show here? If I want to roll down and show the company names for those 15, that would be one example. Now that keeps me in the context of all the other stuff that I'm seeing, so I could just roll it back and maybe even take that out and say, well, you know what, that was one day that I wanted to know. The next day I want to know how were my customer referrals distributed among the sales reps? Well, if I double-click there and instead of choosing company, I choose the sales rep field, which I'm going to have just further down the list here. Then I can see, rather than atomized, rather than one by one all the companies that were in there, by sales rep, how do those break out? Lori and Nancy got the most A leads, but Tina got the most leads overall. Answers a different question really very easily without, without my, as the marketing manager, really needing to have any kind of detailed knowledge about how to use MasterMine. I didn't need to know how to generate this report originally. I didn't need to know really much of anything except how to drill down for an additional piece of information within my report. So giving your users that ability to share and a little bit of training about how to interact with the report really goes a long way. This is what I was talking about having something that's 80% of what you need right there available to you all the time, so that rather than 10 times out of 10 going back to the report writer to create a new report every time you have a question, maybe 8 times out of 10 that's already answered by a report that's available to you plus a little bit of tweaking. and the other 2 times out of 10 you can go back to the report writer person. Okay, so there are many, of course, many different ways to kind of build that out, but if there are any questions or comments from the users, I want to invite you to go ahead and put anything that you want into the question dialogue regarding the things that I've shown here so far. My aim here is not to be terribly technical, but I'll take technical questions if they come along there and sort of figure out whether it's appropriate. And if there aren't any, let's take a look. Okay, I don't see any questions coming up right now. So yeah, this is all fairly straightforward. Let me just see if we can go to, oh, we did have a question come in. How's the report going to show up for the assigned users? Okay, so the way this report's going to show up would be really exactly the same way it shows, unless I misunderstand the question, and I'll give you a chance to clarify after I shoot it and answer here. So it's going to look exactly to the end users the way it does to the people who provide it to you. I assume that we're talking about the assigned users being like the marketing manager in this scenario. So in other words, the marketing manager, when they log into Goldmine, they'll have a taskbar up here. They'll probably have one MasterMine item with several different reports under it. In this case, I've got a merge report here. They'll click once, it'll come up in Excel, it'll refresh with Goldmine data, so that to them, it'll look just the same in Excel here as the way the report writer person left it. Does that kind of answer the question? I hope so.
There's a clarification if they need a MasterMine license.
Oh, do they need a MasterMine license? They need a MasterMine share license, and I will get into the licensing thing here toward the end. So obviously to have a snapshot report shared with them, they don't need a MasterMine license because they're going to get that in Excel or printed or however it is that they get it. But if they're going to have the sort of interactive relationship with the software, then they need a share license. And MasterMine share licenses cost a lot less than the original Create license or the Master license did. And the thought in the design of MasterMine itself was that you would configure your own MasterMine arrangement to your way of working within your company. So we didn't force you to buy, a MasterMine license that's it's big because you're a big company, or that works with every user of Goldmine. We really allowed you to assign them to individual users based on their level of usage. So there's a central Create or a central Master license, and then you can have from there a smaller number of what we call Create users probably a larger number of Create users and a larger still number of Share users. And then of course at no cost at all, you have the largest number, which are the people who just have, let's say, snapshot reports sent to them. But so yeah, so we'll come back to that. There's just one, let's see, yeah, one thing I was actually going to switch back here to, if I can figure out how to do it, to PowerPoint. There we go. And this is just kind of a quick thing that I wanted to run through here, because this is kind of this is the traditional report writing scenario. You have the choice between again, that sort of thing about the report writer who is a report writer for everybody and does 100% of the report writing, or the 80-20 kind of situation where the report writer just gives them something that's 80% of what they need, and then they can sort of tweak it to there. And so this is kind of the scenario, and this was sort of designed for the conversation where the sales manager says, I don't have time for doing reports, I want you to do the reports for me, which is a false savings, especially, I'm going to say this about sales managers, but it's probably true a lot of different kinds of users of Goldmine. They think they're saving time by just saying, just do me a report that shows, where our leads came from. How hard can that be? Well, so here's what's involved in doing that, of course. They have to write the report request. They have to write out in some kind of detail what do they actually want to get, because the person that they're asking to do it isn't a sales manager, so they don't know what exactly what the report is that they probably need. So the sales manager is probably going to have to draft it anyways, sort of set it up roughly just in their mind. What do they have in mind? Then of course they're going to take questions from the report writer person who's got questions about, well, what tables do you want to pull that from in Goldmine? Well, I don't know. I think that might be, I don't know what you mean by tables, but I can point to it in the Goldmine interface. And so they're going to go back and forth. And of course, the report writer person isn't a sales manager, so they don't know even what is standard procedure for sales management. Then it's going to wait around until that person has time to actually do the report for them. Then they're going to have the person attempt to do a report that approximates what they think the sales manager asked for. They'll discuss it. Wasn't what they needed initially, so it's going to get revised. Then you have a couple of iterations of that, and sooner or later you realize you've spent an awful lot more time trying to generate this report than you thought you were going to, and what you wound up with was one report that solved one issue that the next time you need some information, it's going to be back to square one again. And then of course, having done that, it's either go back to that salesperson to tweak it to do other things, or it turns out you really have to design something from scratch again, and it's an awful lot of time spent that way. Or obviously there's this flexible report option, just put something in front of the sales manager, teach him enough to do a little bit of since I made the slide there, I thought I'd take the time to put it together to show it to you. A couple of examples with relation to this. Sometimes, especially at the executive level, you probably want to have certain standard reports. The real dream among executives, of course, is to smoke cigars and practice their putting in their office, and every once in a while have somebody hand them a report showing how successful the company is. The step down from there is to actually have a dashboard where you've really got your hands in it a little bit, you know what's going on, and the step down from there is to actually be a little closer to what's real life instead of TV life, and that is where you really do have to involve yourself in the nitty-gritty day-to-day of different parts of the business and understand very well what's going on, and ask questions and get answers as quickly as possible. So dashboards and high-level reports that managers and executives can work with are perfectly doable with MasterMine reporting. If you missed our webinar on doing dashboards, I think we did one really just several months ago.
December.
So, and they're all available online. Sorry, Carnegie?
In December.
We did it in December? Okay. So, and I think even on the invitation to this webinar, there was probably a link to a number of past webinars, and I think that one was probably included there. We cover so many different topics in these end user sessions. It's very worthwhile if you've missed some of them to go back and look at them. I won't go into the other things here, but they're all reasons essentially for different flavors of end user to have a MasterMine, to have an interactive relationship with MasterMine and not just simply those static ones. So the question came up, so what do they need in terms of licensing to be able to do this? The licensing options with MasterMine are these. You have a create license, a share license, and a master license, and I'll explain what the three of these basically are. A create license, every installation of MasterMine has at least one create license. That is an ability to create new original MasterMine reports using the MasterMine create dialog. That is that's going to wind up being, somewhere between 90% and half of your overall cost for MasterMine licensing wise. The rest are really your choices as far as what capabilities do you want users to have. Share license essentially is what's needed for, in the scenario that I just went through, for the marketing manager to be able to open an existing report that's been shared to them on their taskbar in MasterMine. They can do all the same things that all the live interactive things that a create user can do with their MasterMine reports, except of course create new original ones. There is another level of licensing, which I just need to sort of give you for context, which is a master license. That is create plus our Updater product, which allows you to actually mass update data from inside of Excel back to Goldmine. if you've missed our webinars on MM Updater, I really encourage you to learn more about that, because that is really the user-friendly way to manage your goldmine data. Those are our 3 levels of licensing that are available. It is possible, by the way, also to add an updater license to a share license if you prefer to do it that way. We've sometimes seen that be the case where you've got somebody who's in who has a task or an ongoing set of tasks related to, let's say, cleaning up the goldmine data, and they're already defined tasks, so that person isn't going to need to create new reports every time they're going to work with the database. They've already got their MasterMine reports available. They just need to open and refresh them, maybe tweak them to get down to home in on the specific pieces of data they need to work with, and then they can go right into Updater and update goldmine from there. So that is another possibility. The costs of licensing, additional create seats after the first one are $300. Additional share seats are $200. It's also possible to just simply get share seats available for all users in the enterprise, no matter how many users you have, for $2,995. Additional updater seats, as I said, you can add those to create or share licenses for $300. So that actually is the full topic that I wanted to cover today. Still welcome any questions that you do. We also welcome your feedback in the survey afterwards. Not quite as much hands-on digging around doing stuff in pivot tables this month as I normally do, and if that bothered you, let us know, or if in fact you find that actually better, let us know as well in the survey afterwards. Since you've stayed with us this long through the webinar, I thank you very much for that, and we're going to go right to our drawing here. And if you're the big winner, you will get a free half hour of help with report writing, data updating, massaging, data analysis, any of the things that might be useful for you working with your goldmine data. You can use this as really basically a free sample of the kinds of work that we can do with you online through your MasterMine application. So Carnegie, have you got our big winner over there?
I have our winner. Today it is Holly Beaumont.
Polly Beaumont. Congratulations, Polly. Was it Polly or Holly?
Holly.
Polly.
With an H.
With an H. Okay, Holly, sorry. Okay. Congratulations, and we will set that up to do that session with you. I will leave you with the final slide here, which is contact information to get support from MasterMine. We can work with you online, of course, doing report writing and data manipulation. If you've got other questions related to licensing or doing support work, find that information on our website, or you can contact us there at the sales through the sales info, and of course the technical support information there as well. All right, thank you all very much for your time today, and we'll look forward to meeting with you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.